Blog Talk Radio.
Good evening and welcome to Golf Talk Live. I'm your host, Ted Odorico, broadcasting live every Thursday, 6 to 8 p.m. Central from Panama City Beach, Florida, home of the world's most beautiful beaches. I want to take this opportunity to thank everyone for joining me on my weekly broadcast. Every week, I'll feature some of the best instructors, coaches, authors, and entrepreneurs in the golf business today. I begin with a great discussion on Coach's Corner, followed by an insightful interview with my special guest. So let's get started by introducing tonight's Coach's Corner panel. All right. Thank you, everybody, once again for joining me here tonight on Golf Talk Live. And as always, we've got a great show for you tonight. As mentioned, I'm going to bring on the Coach's Corner panel here in just a second. And then a little bit later on, I'm going to be joined by the golf announcer known as the Voice himself, Mr. Peter Kessler, is going to be joining me here on the show on the second half. So I hope you'll stick around for that. Always an interesting conversation with Peter. But again, thank you, everybody. We're already in the month of May. It's hard to believe, but 2019 seems to be just zipping along. And as I was just mentioning to the panel here, we're gearing up for another hurricane season here in about a month's time. So keep your fingers crossed and keep us in your prayers, especially down here in Florida. We've had enough of it for many years yet. So, but again, appreciate you guys joining me on the show tonight. And let me just remind everybody as well that the Coach's Corner panel, of course, is sponsored by GolfSwing.com. They've come on board again this season. GolfSwing.com, with its cutting-edge technology, have teamed up alongside some of the best golf instructors, coaches, and swing gurus in the business. And together they have created one of the best video teaching and training online platforms in golf. So if you're ready to break 100, 90, 80, or even 70, then join their online video academy and learn from some of the best. So join GolfSwing.com today and watch, practice, and improve your game. All right, guys, let me just bring the panel out here, and we'll get into tonight's discussion on the Coach's Corner. First up, of course, is Bill Abrams. He's a PGA professional and owner and director of instruction at the Golf Solutions Academy in Balmoral Woods, Crete, Illinois, as well as in the winter months, you're going to find him down at the Grand Palms Resort in Pembroke Pines, Florida. He was also the 2017 Central Illinois PGA Teacher of the Year and the 2015 Illinois PGA Professional of the Year. Also joining on the panel tonight is Jamie Leno-Zimron. She's a speaker, instructor, body worker, and consultant, and she's also an Aikido 6th degree black belt, as well as a Class A LBJ teach professional. She's a corporate and conference speaker, executive trainer and coach, and speaker for Visage International and the Executive Committee of Canada. Rounding out the panel, of course, is Pete Buchanan, founder, director of instruction, and owner of Plain Simple Golf LLC, which, of course, houses the Plain Simple Golf Circuit and the Simple Swing Repeater Training Brace. And my good friend Peter has been teaching for over 30-plus years in the golf business. So everybody on the panel is very, very experienced, and always a pleasure to have them on. Guys, welcome to the Coach's Corner panel.
Thanks. Great to be here. Pleasure to be here.
All right. We've got a few different areas that we're going to talk about tonight, and I'm going to sort of, as we go along, sort of lay out some of the groundwork, if you will, and then we'll get into our discussion. So I'm going to go, I think what we'll do tonight is we'll start in the order that I introduced you and work down the list, and I'll sort of mix it up as we go along. Everybody and everything, it seems, this day and age revolves around the word fast. You know, we want fast computers. We want faster cars and so on and so forth. And a question that seems to fall in line with golf is, how can I get better at golf fast? Everybody wants to improve fast. And there are a few things that can improve very easily. Very little change can help you to get fast. And Bill, I want you to start tonight. We're going to talk about a few things like address position, obviously, is a key factor. A lot of people are worried more about distance, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later on. But actually hitting the ball straighter is going to help improve your golf game. The short game, we're going to talk a little bit about that as well, particularly from 6 feet in, which of course is on the putting surface. And obviously we want to be able to hit more greens in order to have access to some of those great putts. So those are just some areas we're going to start with. So Bill, let's sort of unpack that question a little bit. And how can I get better for our amateurs listening out there that want to improve fast? What are some things that they can do right now as we get started, especially in the Northeast with the golf season?
Great question, Ted, and I think it's pretty timely as well when we're seeing all the people trying to rebuild their swings on tour and get even better. And in my humble opinion, I feel the first place we have to go is to get you very stable at setup and engaged with the ground, and then be able to carry that on into the swing and have very good dynamic balance throughout the golf swing, because you hear about tempo and pace and everything else, but if we don't have that good engagement with the ground and the stability and then the ability to make a motion and still stay on balance, it's going to be a moot point because you're not going to be very consistent.
Yeah, well said. Balance is a key, obviously, and I think just working on your swing is great, but I think that if you're not doing things correctly, that's going to create all kinds of issues along the way. And Jamie, I want to talk about some things, sort of understanding your physical limitations as well as fueling the body is an important factor as well. People want to get better at golf fast. They always say, well, what can we do? And they're always looking for this quick fix. Well, there really is no quick fix, if you will, but there are some things that we can do that will see sort of immediate results. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about, how we can, by fueling the body, how that's going to help, and also understanding and learning our sort of physical capabilities is going to help as well.
Well, these are really good questions, Ted, and I think you're right about the people want things fast. I always joke that if I would put out a line of pills, and they could be herbal, they could be holistic, but people would buy them, and then they would be called distance, accuracy, consistency, whatever. If I could, just sell pills,
right.
People could take a pill and they'd get those things. They would prefer that, but it really doesn't work that way. In terms of the body, there is so much that can be done that will quickly improve people's distance and accuracy and consistency. And those things, the way I approach them, they have to do with what I call universal principles for success, and they do relate to us. We were just saying, relating to the ground and setup. So when you're centered, when you have balance, when you have stability, when you have enough strength in your quads and your legs and your hip flexors and your back muscles, your spinal muscles, then what happens is now all of a sudden, you're not, and you understand around what happens when you sway or move off the ball as opposed to staying centered, to be able to deliver all of your energy powerfully into the golf ball. That helps. When you understand the target line so that you take the club back along the target line and you release square at the ball and you extend down the target line, that makes a big difference. You also need some flexibility in your lats and, different areas of your body, and spinal rotation. And so, for example, I have worked with countless golf tournaments where I just come in and I do a warm-up before everybody goes out. So I have 10 or 15 minutes. I give them a few of these principles. We do a few golf warm-ups that I call Make Your Golf Club Your Health Club, and then they go out and play. So we haven't really worked on their swing per se, but we have worked on these things, and I show how they relate to your swing. And then I go out and I kind of bop around and I hit some shots with everybody. And I have people getting mad because they're knocking their clubs over the green. They're all of a sudden hitting it so far. And right. It never ceases to amaze me, and it doesn't cease to amaze them. But it makes so much sense that when you have stability, when you stay centered and can deliver centered contact onto the ball, and when you have a certain strength and flexibility that doesn't take a ton of time and heavy-duty workouts in the gym, unless you're a tour player, but that's something else. And you can do some exercises at home, 5, 10, 15 minutes every day, or even in your office. Oh, my God, you are going to improve. You're going to have more power. You're going to be able to have a container so that you can deliver your energy into the golf ball, because when all is said and done, it's your energy that makes the golf ball go. We have to use our body properly and have enough strength and flexibility and balance. Those are the three key things to be able to deliver that energy properly into the golf ball. And the other thing that I do is I teach what I call swing patterning. which is kind of borrowed from martial arts, this idea of form, or kata, we call it in Japanese. And the golf swing is basically a repeating form of your backswing, downswing, impact, follow through, those three phases of the golf swing. When you start to pattern them and know, how you use your body from your feet up into your upper body, all of a sudden you start to make repeatable swings. Those things can quickly help people to improve.
Right. Well said, Jamie. Thank you. Pete, I want to go back for just a second because a couple of points I mentioned. There's one or two more I want to throw in there as well, because I know, as we all do in this business, we want our students to be able to hit the ball straighter, and certainly we want them to hit further. We're going to talk about, as I said, we're going to talk about that. But hitting more greens, particularly with your wedge shots, and sort of focusing on that short game distance over direction sometimes as well. And the other thing is sort of improving your pace putting. In other words, setting a benchmark. Clint, who's been on the panel many times over the years as well, always talks about setting a benchmark so that you can lag putt very well and so forth on the green. So talk a little bit about, again, the importance of short game. If we want to improve fast, there's an area that if we work on some of the things that we can be doing as golfers out there, and obviously as professionals, as teaching professionals, what we can be helping our students if they want to see fast results.
Well, there's no question when you're talking specifically from a distance standpoint, if your short game is really, really good, then it gives you more confidence off the tee to go ahead and hit it because you can recover if necessary. So there's a way you can free yourself up a little bit by having a stellar short game and have that move into your long game and give you more confidence in that. There's no question the short game is a huge part of it. I mean, as well as I do, you've seen some of the things I do. I have tons of drills I do with the short game, and it's all about repetition and distance control, especially with, anything coming in from 60 yards on in and being able to repeat those and get full control, what I always say, full control over the golf club so that you can control those short shots and get those to where you're really, really confident in, not only in the technique, but also in the repetition of being able to play those shots when you need them. And there's no question the putting has always been a huge part of it. Too often overlooked. You have those rounds where, they say, well, if I just drove it better, I could have scored better. They have 43 putts. And you just look at them like, well, let's talk about this for just a second. And so, you can't neglect the putting. It's something that I know for a lot of people is a little bit boring to practice. So I always have games that I like to play to break it up to make it easier, but also just emphasizing the importance of what putting can do for you. I mean, it can make up for so many errant shots. As I've always said, and, you get this question a lot, when you're playing a hole, what's the most important shot? And to me, if it's a par four, the fourth one is, because if it doesn't go in, it's now five. So the putts are always really important because you can hit three pretty scraggly shots and make a long putt and you've got a four. So, the putter can save you more strokes, but also can free up the rest of your game as well as the short shots, inside of about 60 yards. To make it so you can work on some more speed or be a little bit more free to go after that drive and maybe hit a little bit further, knowing that, if I miss this one, I can recover. And not that we're trying to get them to miss, but it just frees you up a little bit when your short game is more sound. And, the scoring is going to be in there anyway. Inside of 60 yards, if you're going to score, you have to play those shots well. And we all know that when professionals play their best, they have very few of those, and amateurs have them all the time. So they need to practice them all the time because those are the shots they have. Those are the ones that are going to help them. If you look at the number of greens you're going to hit, and if you're hitting 5, 6, 7, 8 greens, well, then you better start working on your short game and let the short game help you score while you start working on getting more greens in regulation, which then can, offset that a little bit as you go. But, there's no question. I mean, the short game is vital. You have to have it, and you have to be able to putt well. To be able to score. And, when I was out at the Q school last year for the web.com, every single solitary one of those players out there can putt. All of them. Yep. Or they wouldn't be there. Yeah. And just watching how much time they spent on the greens in preparation for that Q school is enormous. And, you just, when you go to your club, you just don't see that many people hitting putts, so you wish you did. But, it's really amazing how much time and effort they put into it because it's so important.
Right, and you're exactly right. What well said, Pete. I think a lot of amateurs have it backwards. I think that obviously we all want distance, and we're going to talk about that here in just a second. I'm going to start with you, Jamie. But I'm a firm believer that I want my golfer to be more accurate with their golf shots, because I think when you're once you become accurate, an accurate ball striker, an accurate putter, distance will then follow with certain key factors. And I think what a lot of people do is they get out there and they're trying to get more distance, but they're spraying the ball all over the place. So I want to, Jamie, what we're going to talk about here for just a second, and then I'll move on to the guys as well. And the obvious question is, where does power in our golf swing come from? It comes really from a combination of things. I'm going to read this, and then I'm going to get you to respond to it. The combination comes from a combination of body twisting around a slightly moving pivot point, arms and hands swinging up and around in the backswing, and then down and around in the forward swing, which of course happens in a split second. But let's be a little bit more specific. I mean, obviously it's not just the swing of the club. There are certain movements of the body that take place that help us to generate the speed, and we're going to talk about how we can do things to increase the speed as well in a moment. But in your opinion, where does a lot of the power in our golf swing come from?
In my opinion, and I'm on a mission in life with everywhere, power comes from the lower body and and also the core, what we call the center and the hips, and everything working in proper sequence. It does not come from the upper body and trying to muscle it with your arms. And if you think about it, so much of golf instruction is centered around shoulder turn and straight left arm and that sort of thing. And my experience is that most golfers really are not taught how to use their feet and how to use their trunk and how to have properly sequenced movement from the lower to the upper body. It almost seems like we don't have footwork in golf because we're not really going anywhere, right? But that's not true. There's a lot of footwork in golf. And the swing moves up from the ground, from the feet, through the knees, through the hips, and then into the upper body. There's some specifics on that, but that is so absolutely vital. So my mission in life is to get people to start golfing and living from their neck down. We're mostly up in our heads
right.
and in our upper body. And once again, too much of golf instruction is so focused on the upper body. And people are always talking about that and thinking about that. So that's one thing. Another thing that I think is really important is to go through all the athletic movements, which I do with my students. If you're Casey at the bat, or you're making a pitch, or you're a quarterback throwing a football 50 yards downfield, or you're playing tennis, a forehand actually begins in the feet. A backhand begins in the feet. A baseball swing begins in the feet. A 90, 100-mile-an-hour baseball pitch begins in the feet, in the core, in the lower body, and then comes the arm. So, this is where it happens. If you go through a free throw, you go down. The athlete, the basketball player, goes down. These guys are, 6'5", 7 feet tall. They're huge. They're muscled, and they go down in their lower body, and then the energy, everything kind of comes up. And then their upper body and their hands are very soft and relaxed. And so what we can learn from that is that we need to connect with our lower body, and when we have strength and stability in the lower body, the upper body can be relaxed, and that way we can have, we can generate a lot of speed in our release. But if we're holding the club tight and we're tense and we're just thinking about our upper body and we haven't engaged our big muscles in our core and our lower body, we're just going to be trying to whack at it with the upper body. And this is where people lose everything. They lose distance, they lose power, they lose accuracy, They lose consistency, and they're very, very frustrated. There's one other thing I would say, and that is that it's important to stabilize your back leg. So that's your right leg if you're a righty and your left leg if you're a lefty. I remember doing some research once and getting way back into obscure golf magazines from the 70s and 80s, and a question was asked of Jack Burke Jr., great instructor, what's your favorite feeling in the golf swing? And his answer really thrilled me because it's something that I teach. And he said, it's the feeling of turning around my posted back leg, turning into it around my back leg. And most people, their back leg, it kind of buckles out to the side, or it straightens, or it does all kinds of weird things. But it isn't just strong and solid, and then you can turn into it and load into it, and then you can push off of it, and voila, lots of power. And so once again, I call it the secret of the back leg, the secret of the back knee. And that back leg is almost like the blind spot in our car when we're driving. Our brain has a really hard time relating to our back, foot, and knee, and our back leg in our golf swing. But we really need to start creating that neuromuscular connection to the back leg and learn how to stabilize it so that we can load into it and then push off and unload from it. That's where there's a whole lot of power waiting for people.
Right. Well said, Jamie. Pete, one of the other things too is, that we've heard over the years in golf instruction is our arms certainly do play a role, but to sort of have that like a rope feeling when we're swinging our arms to be sort of very loose, or a lot of times I've even heard people refer to it like an elephant's trunk, just sort of swaying back and forth. But really, that's not exactly true. As Jamie pointed out, we certainly don't want a lot of tension, but at the same time, in order to get that power, obviously it starts with the lower body, but eventually the arms and the upper body do play an important part. Is that a misconception when it's been said that the arms need to sort of feel like a loose rope, if you will, and swinging and to create a natural swing, or is there a certain amount of tension in our upper body in order to, or muscle, if you will, it's engaged in order to make it function properly?
Well, I would say, first of all, you have to have, some freedom to be able to swing the club. I think all of us are going to hold on instinctively enough through the swing, tight enough so we don't throw the club down the fairway. So I think you'll adjust to that as you go, and
Sure.
Those that have higher speeds are going to have to hold it a little bit harder. And it also depends on what ball shape you have. I mean, if you watch them, I have some guys that, fight a very, very close club face, and they're holding on to that thing pretty tight so we can slow that face down. And so, it really depends on really what you're looking at. I don't think it's just a one thing you can say about everybody. I think in a general statement, you can say you want to stay loose and you want to be able to have some freedom. The lower half is important, but I don't discount the upper half. You can't
Right.
gain club head speed if you don't swing your hands and arms. That's reality. You have to swing your hands and arms if you're going to gain that speed in there. But the lower half can help you to do that and help you maximize what you're doing. It is important, no question. And mapping all that together is very, very important. So you have to have all the parts. But the hands and arms are important. I think they need to have some sort of flexibility into them to be free to move. But I think depending on the individual, some may have a little bit more tension in there. Some may not. Really depending on who they are, what they've done. But I think in all things we're trying to coordinate the both halves together. And so I think a little bit of freedom is going to help. But again, I remember asking John Jacobs. I said, "How tight do you hold it?" He says, "Well, hold it hard enough that you don't throw it down the fairway." I mean,
Right.
It made a lot of sense. It was a pretty simple answer, but he said, innately, I think we're all going to grab it to a certain extent to hold on to it. And I think, really depending on the individual and the speed that you begin to create, I think as it gets faster and faster, there's going to be a little bit more of a hold on there to hold the club and still be able to control it. I mean, you can swing it with a lot of speed totally out of control, but you have to have some sort of grip to keep it under control at that speed so you can still apply
Right.
the golf club to it properly to make it go not only with some distance but some direction.
Right. And Bill, Nicholas always said too, as Jamie and Pete have pointed out, that the swing really is created with good footwork too. It's not just the rest of the body, but the footwork. Nicholas always referred to that good footwork and that. I want to talk to you, Bill. I want to give you the opportunity to talk a little bit more about increasing one's distance, if you will. I mentioned we were going to talk about that. So a lot of questions that I get is how can I increase my distance in golf? Obviously through strength and flexibility. And here are some things that, increasing the swing speed, obviously ultimately therefore the shot distance with your clubs, increasing the driver. Everybody wants to get an extra 10, 20, or even 30 yards. And obviously ball striking accuracy and consistency is going to help to reduce our scores overall. But I think a lot of people, when they, don't understand in golf, there is a different mapping of our strength and flexibility. For instance, when we go to the gym, let's say, or a club to work out, we're looking to sort of, in a lot of ways, bulk up and gain a certain amount of strength. But sometimes that's not always conducive in a golf game. So what really is a good strength and flexibility that's going to help us yield those good distances, but that's not counterintuitive or counterproductive?
Good points again, Ted. With the workout regimens that a lot of players are getting into, I was told a long time ago, prior to myself playing college basketball, by a very solid coach, you don't want your muscles short and tight. You want them long and strong. And I think that's one of the things we have to look at. It, and even in other sports, if you go to the bygone eras, where we had a pitcher per se that could throw 250 to 300 innings a year, and now they're throwing them out on a 89 pitch count. So I think it goes across all sports that we need to make sure that we're a little bit more long and strong, which is going to give us some more flexibility and range of motion, as opposed to bulking up and trying to get thick and short muscles, because those, even on the beach, they aren't very good. So you got to have that long and strong, I think, is one of the things. And again, I can't say that enough. With the younger players that we work with, you got to make sure we have the good trainers and people who really know what they're doing to get in the body into into peak condition versus what I call an imbalanced strong position.
Right. Well said. All right, I want to shift now a little bit because, one of the things that we often have a problem with as instructors is getting our students to get out and practice. And I think, obviously, by keeping it as simple as possible, I think that will help. And I think there's things that we can do, whether it be repeatable drills that may be helping certain areas of the game, whether it be on the putting surface, chipping, bunker play, that sort of thing that can make it fun. But I've sort of narrowed down 5 keys to practicing golf with a purpose. And Jamie, I'm going to go to you. I'm going to read these out, and if you have some others or have a different take on it, you by all means throw it in there. And then I want to give each of you an opportunity to really sort of put a fine point or period, if you will, to what really in your mind are your keys to practicing golf with a purpose, so that when your students go out there, what is it that you want to accomplish, what is it you want them to do, and what are going to be ultimately the results that they're going to see if they adhere to that practice regime, if you will. So here are the 5 keys that I've put together, and then Jamie, I'm going to go with you, and then Pete, and then Bill. Practice the shots that you use most. In other words, if you're out on the practice tee and you're just hitting ball after ball after ball, some of those shots you may use, but a lot of them you may not. So what is your typical round? What are the shots that you're going to use most out in the golf course that you typically play? Those are the ones that you're going to practice. You're not going to practice necessarily from a perfect lie all the time. You might have to find an area in the green or range, if you will, that has a little bit of a slope to it. Always, in my opinion, have a practice plan. In other words, have a specific plan how you want to spend your practice time. Always find your target. In other words, don't just hit balls. Zero in on a target. Look out in the range and find a target. And also mix up your shots. Actually play a couple of holes. Think about, visually the holes that you, maybe the first and second and third hole of the course that you're familiar with, and kind of visually, mentally draw a picture in your mind of what each of those holes look like and play them out on the range. And then don't be afraid to practice, obviously, on the course. I mean, obviously, you have to be cognizant of slow play. But that's another thing as well. You can kind of, again, play a little bit of a game when you're out there maybe playing with your buddy or something. So those are 5 keys that I think when you utilize those and sort of stick to those, I think that you'll be able to practice with a purpose. So Jamie, what are your thoughts on that? And do you have something else that you typically like to instill into your students?
Well, I like everything on your list. I won't, go over them because I think that they're all great. One I would add is trouble shots. I've done whole weekend golf schools on trouble shots where we just, work on hilly lies and long grass and under trees and, all the trouble shots. So the ball just up against the fringe so you can't take your putter back, all these kinds of things. I think we have to help people to not be so afraid of different shots. Just yesterday I did a playing lesson with a student of mine, and there are a few clubs she doesn't like, and she just didn't want to hit them. And I said, well, what's today for? And so, we had to get through her resistance, and now she's added a couple clubs and a couple shots to her repertoire, and she's going to practice them because we just broke through her mental block about them. I'm going to offer something that's a little bit different in terms of practice, and it's a story I tell my students, and I'll just share it. It's called the banjo story. And what it is years ago I wanted to play the banjo, and I'd never even seen one or held one, even though I'd played the guitar. So I walked into this banjo shop, and this woman said, "Hi, my name is Phyllis. You can call me Phil. I'm going to be your teacher." And I was like, "Okay, Phil," And she showed me forward rolls, backward rolls, alternating rolls to make the rolling sound of a banjo with my fingers. And I thought, well, that's cool. And it was like moving my toes. It was difficult. So I went home. I practiced that for a week. I came back. I'm kind of sounding like a banjo, da-da-da-da-da-da. Next week, we did the same thing. I'm like, okay, I still need to work on that. I come back for my third lesson. What do we do? Same thing. By then, I'm like, Phil, I think I'm ready. I'm rolling. Doesn't it sound good? She's like, who's the banjo sensei? Who's the banjo teacher? I'm like, you are. Went home, practiced. And fourth lesson, same thing. By then, I was mad. I didn't want to pay her anymore. I'm like, I'm going too slow. It was pretty funny. And she's like, just, pay and go home. So I went home. I'm like, bored. I'm just like, oh, I'm rolling so great. Fifth lesson, she finally showed me some fingering for Cripple Creek, and I whipped off this beautiful song in like 10, 15 minutes. Well, what was happened there. Over the next month, I had a repertoire of about 10 songs. So in 2 months, I had a repertoire of about 10 songs, and they sounded really good because, number one, I could roll. Number two, my brain space was freed. So I didn't have to think about my right hand. I could just worry about my left hand and this tablature, right? So it was all about kind of brain space in a certain sense. She made me do that till, never had to think about it again. And it turns out I learned better and faster by her making me do that. Let's transfer that to golf. I show people the basic pattern of sort of, backswing, impact, a little bit of follow through, okay? Trying to pattern the golf swing. And so all shots, for 20, 40, 60, say up to 100 yards. And I give my students a banjo challenge. Will you give me your golf clubs? I'll confiscate them for 2, 3, 4 weeks. I'm putting in my garage, and you're going to practice just this core part of your swing. You're going to get really good at it. You're going to have more fun than I did because you can vary the distance of the shots. You can go left, right, short pins, long pins. You're going to be bored. You're hitting them so well. And then to add the fuller swing, just a little bit more backswing, a little bit more follow through, you can add on your 8, 7, 6 iron, et cetera, all the way down to the big clubs. And those who are willing to do that, and most people aren't, but I've had some people take me up on it for a while, they just improve so much because they have really taken time to go back and get the core of their swing working properly. And to a point where it's just happening, what we call muscle memory. They're not thinking about it so much. They've patterned their swing properly, and they've got correct sequence, and they're making great contact. They feel really confident in all those short shots, which is already improving their game and their scores. And the basic core of their swing is really solid. So when they add on the longer clubs and the fuller swings, they just come online. So I wanted to share that. I've never really talked about that publicly. I tell my students that. And like I say, those who have taken up the banjo challenge in their golf practice, first of all, they love practicing. They've really got something to practice. And number two, they end up taking a quantum leap.
Great story, Jamie. I love that. Pete, before I get you to go on, what I really love about that is the fact that a lot of times we give too much for students to do, and they get confused, or they get overwhelmed, and they get frustrated. By centering the focus on one task and getting it to the point where you become very proficient, then you can add on. I like that. That was a great example, Jamie. Thank you very much for sharing that. Pete,
well, I have to tell you,
I
Phil,
put together
Phil
5 keys. Sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, Phil was tough, and it didn't make me happy at the time, but I understood the wisdom of what she did with me later on. And
Right.
it was profound. And believe me, I was a little younger too. I was like mouthing off, and I didn't want to pay her anymore, and come on, and the whole thing. But boy, did that pay off. And it was it's something I've learned in my teaching from her that has been really profound.
Yeah, I love that. Pete, what about you? Let's talk about some key fundamentals that you want to put together in a practice session that's going to help not only yield results, but keep them focused and interested in their practice sessions.
Well, I have it all boiled down into video drills that I show them that they can do, and it's really a two-phase process. Let me start at the beginning. The first thing I try to get all of them to understand is cause and effect, because if they don't understand that from the beginning, then their practice becomes more of an experiment versus understanding what they're doing, what shots they're seeing, what's causing that to happen, and what they have to do to fix it. So when they don't have that, their practice sessions can get away from them pretty fast. So I always make sure
Right.
at the beginning that we talk about cause and effect, and you understand why you hit the shots you hit, what you're doing is causing these. And then I have, these drills all patterned into a specific practice routine, and I have that dialed out, and I actually have an Excel form that I send them, and they can pattern it out to whatever practice schedule they can have on the days they want to do it. But it gives them specific drills to do, and it basically is a building block to the full swing. And they don't realize that at the start, but as they start to move doing these drills in these different types of areas, and some of them, they don't even use a ball. They're just doing drills. And, yeah, it can get a little bit monotonous at times, but when they start to play, they start to realize that, hey, something's different here, and I've got more control over the ball, and it's a lot more simple, and I'm scoring better. And so I've always gone to that same routine, and my students really get tired of me telling them the same thing all the time. And I said, that's a good thing that I'm telling you the same things all the time, because we're working toward getting it done and getting it right. And, if you're coming for a lesson and every time it's different, then, how are we going to get any consistency into this thing? And so we're
Right.
always working towards the same goal, and I let them know what that goal is. And then I've built the practice drills specifically to reach those goals. And so it gives them a variety of different things to practice. And everything's in there: putting, pitching, chipping, bunker play, and the full shots. And they're all varying drills at varying distances and different things that they do to build up to that. So, that's the one thing I've always done, but it's always rooted in cause and effect. I mean, that's the way I was taught. You talk about little stories. I remember when I first met John Jacobs with the swing that I had, we played the day before. I shot 5 under, and then the next day walked up on the tee and he said, "Come with me, that's all wrong." And so we went over to a downhill lie that was pretty severe, and he gave me a 3-wood and a bunch of balls. He said, "Come back to me when you finally get one in the air and tell me what you learned." And, and left it at that. And so I had to figure out, and I pretty much laid sod over top of the ball for a while trying to figure out how to hit it off that because of the motion that I had. But I finally figured it out. But it was a great learning experience for me because it taught me how to figure it out for myself. And then I went up and explained to him what I found out, and he goes, "Okay, all right, let's move on to the next step." So, pretty much the same thing in the story that Jamie was talking about. It's just, you get something that you have to do, and it at the time it doesn't seem like it's helping anything, but in the long run it really is. So, there's just certain things like that stick with you that I think, they're small in nature at the beginning in those drills and things that you do, but they reap huge benefits in the end.
Yeah, you're well said. Great story, Pete. Thank you. You're exactly right, guys. You know, I remember a few years back there was a gentleman that was struggling with his game, and I decided to help him a little bit. And so he signed up for a few lessons. I'll just keep it very brief, and then Bill, I want to give you an opportunity to finish your thoughts. And one of the things that he would do every time is, he wanted to learn something new. He wanted something new. And we would do a quick review of what we did the last week. And he was always, I won't say evasive, but just didn't want to sort of go over that because he felt, we talked about that last week. And it goes to really both of your points, is that there's a reason why certain things have to be repetitive. It's great to, we all want to learn something new, but in order to become proficient in any skill, regardless of what it is, there's a certain amount of repetition that needs to be done. And when somebody comes to you and doesn't want to go through that process, then they're really not serious about improving. They just want to be able to say, well, hey, I did something different today, or I did this today. But very few people that I've ever seen can master, certainly some people have natural talents and things like that, but very few people can master certain things in a very, very short time without some repetition. So when you see somebody, again, that's sort of trying to go through that process very quickly, more often than not, it just is not a good situation. And ultimately, after about 3 or so lessons, I just said, "Lo, this is not going to work," and I sent him on his way. And there was a reason for that. I don't want to waste his time because obviously he's looking for something different, and I don't want to waste my time because in order to become a better golfer, there are certain things that you're going to have to do regardless of what level you might be at. Bill, I want to give you an opportunity to wrap things up with some keys that you might have. Some may be in conjunction with what we've already discussed, and maybe some other things that you do in order to get your students to practice with purpose and to become a better all-around player.
Well, Ted, with a lot of players, they have a hard time finding the time to practice. So one of the things that I really try to focus on is that quality trumps quantity. Finding ways with a small bucket of balls to get a very effective practice in where they're going to be gaining something. And I'm very heavy on drills for the part of the swing that they need to work on to really become more efficient. Both the strength of their game, one that will strengthen the things that they do good, but also a drill that will also help the things that they're a little deficient on. Secondly, I really like to add in game-like practice because that's
right.
Every session should have a bit of that, because how many players will tell you, I was great on the range, I was great in practice, I get to the first tee or the 10th tee, and I'm a mess. And I make a little joke, I said, well, you got to realize every golf course has a little magnet near the first or 10th tee that saps all your golf knowledge and ability and confidence away from you. So what we're going to do is we're going to give you something to block out that magnet. And, and I find by doing this, simple things, and even giving them some drills that they can do at home without a ball, to build that confidence where they're keeping themselves, making the motions that they have to hit good shots, as opposed to worrying about position. And I think that, going through it this way, I've had tons of success with all levels of players really getting themselves up to a new level.
Right, exactly. Well said. And guys, something, too, that I don't think a lot of amateurs understand is, when you're playing a round of golf, each hole is like a new canvas, if you were a painter, for an example. And when you come up to that first tee, you're not going to see that hole again throughout the golf course. So each hole that you play requires a different thought process, requires different visual cues that you're going to see. You're going to see on this particular hole, maybe you've got bunkers in the fairway, say 200 yards out on the right. Maybe you've got a water hazard running along the left. And you're going to play that a certain way. And you're not going to play that same way every single hole. So when you're practicing the same shots on the range time and time again, and you're not mixing it up, then you're not really, as you put it, Bill, you're not really game-like training or game-like practicing. You're just hitting the same shot every time. Well, you're not going to be faced with the same shot out in the golf course because you're not going to be faced with the same hole on the golf course throughout 18 holes. So you have to be able to practice different things, not only in your mind, but when you're out on the practice tee. That's what it's for. It's there to practice, not just to become a better ball striker, but to practice the types of shots that you're going to need when you go out in the golf course. Just like when you, in business, you practice certain things in order to prepare, whether it be for a presentation or some other function within a company. You practice certain skills in order to get an end result. And I think that's where a lot of our amateurs seem to fall short, is they want to practice the same thing all the time and expecting a different result when they get out in the golf course, faced with a different obstacle than what they were dealing with on the range. So that's something that I think that we all would agree we have to incorporate in our practice sessions to make sure that they're practicing things that they're going to be using out in the golf course, because the situation is going to change. And I think that's something that from time to time I think we all have a difficult time trying to get students to understand, is that it's great to hit golf shots on the range, but if you're hitting shots that you're not going to use out on the golf course, then you're not really practicing effectively. Great discussion tonight, guys. I want to thank you for always bringing your best and having some great thoughts and discussion on our topic. I'm going to go down the line again. We'll start with Bill and then Jamie and then Pete. Let the folks know where they can reach out and anything that you want to quickly plug.
Simplest way to get me is just my website, BillAbramsGolf.com. It's got an email option there and gives you some wonderful opportunities. I'm also going to have an app available May 15th with Swing U that'll be available on Android and on Apple devices in the App Store. I'll be at Balmoral Woods starting today through the beginning of October. So I'll be just south of the city of Chicago, and please feel free to reach out to me at any point in time, and I'd love to discuss your game.
Perfect. Thank you, Bill. Jamie, you as well.
Yes. Well, as you know, Ted, I travel a lot. I do a lot of corporate speaking, and then I do seminars and different things. People can reach me, and if they're interested, I'll just mention a few cities I'm going to be in the coming months. Seattle, Calgary, Boise, San Diego, Chicago, and I'm located near Lake Tahoe and also in the Bay Area. So, if anyone's in those areas. I also have started doing a lot of Skype lessons, and they've been really, really very helpful because we can see each other. I can give people drills. We talk a lot about the sort of mind-body game, mental mind and course management. They've been just really, really fun and helpful. So I want to put that out. And people can reach me at on my website, which is kiaigolf.com, KIAI golf.com, or email me at Jamie, JAMIE, at kiaigolf.com, Facebook, and also my phone. I actually answer my phone and get back to people from voicemail. So that's 760-492-4653. 4653, of course, is golf. And I did want to just add one
Perfect.
thing.
Thank
you
you.
were talking about, Ted, as you were talking about repetition.
Yep.
I think it's important to understand there's a little bit of neuroscience behind that, and that is that when we physically perform an action, our brain cells grow these little things called dendrites, and it takes a while to grow them, and then they start finding each other. And when they connect, that's what we call a neuromuscular pathway. So by repetition, like when we were in first grade, we wrote a lot of A, B, B, C, C. That's how we learned the alphabet. You write a whole bunch of them so that you learn them, then it gets easier to write them. That's because your brain has grown these little dendrites and they've connected. Now we have a neuromuscular pathway. And so that's why it takes 21 to 30 days to make a habit, why we need to repeat, and why when in a golf lesson we show somebody something and they hit a few balls and they go, it doesn't work. Right. It's so frustrating. It's like you got to work on it to actually develop those pathways,
Well,
and because otherwise you do your default thing, which is your old habits.
Yeah, exactly. Well said, Jamie. And Pete, finally, where can the folks reach out to you and anything that you want to plug?
They can reach me at plainsimplegolf.com. The plane is PLANE. All my contact information is out there. And also they can look at some of the online instruction that I do, which is as you and I talked about, Ted, is the vast majority of what I do is online instruction. And so they can contact me. We get started that way. And again, as always, Ted, it's always great to be on. And I want to thank you for having this platform and allowing us the ability to be able to do this. So thanks again.
I appreciate it, guys. And always thank you for your thoughts and input to the show. Without you, obviously, it wouldn't be as successful as it is. And I look forward to having you guys back on next time. So have a great weekend. Enjoy hopefully some good weather, and hopefully the rain will stop wherever it's raining and get some sunshine out. You guys can get out on the golf course and maybe play a little bit yourself. But thank you as always, guys. I appreciate your time and efforts into the program, and I look forward to you coming back.
Thanks, Ted.
Thanks for having
me,
all
Ted.
of you.
It's an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Ted.
Thanks
Say hi
again,
to Peter,
everybody.
too, okay?
All right. Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. That was the Coach's Corner panel. Bill Abrams, Pete Buchanan, and Jamie Leno-Zimron joining me here on Golf Talk Live's Coach's Corner panel. And as mentioned, that was sponsored by golfswing.com. Speaking of which, here's just a short little audio clip to tell you a little bit more about golfswing.com.
Are you finally ready to improve your golf game? Golfswing.com is changing the way golfers learn online. With the largest collection of golf training programs and drills on the planet, Golfswing.com can help you improve every part of your game. Whether you want to gain more distance, hit it closer, or just sink more putts, Golfswing.com's staff of world-class coaches can help you gain the results you need. Watch unlimited videos on any device from anywhere in the world and start playing better, scoring lower, having more fun, and saving money. Get your fix on demand at Golfswing.com.
All right. Once again, thank you to the folks at golfswing.com for sponsoring the Coach's Corner panel. I appreciate, as always, their support of the program, and always very interesting topics and discussions on the program during the panel discussion. I love having the folks here, and of course, next week I'll have another great panel on. All right, my very special guest tonight, while I wait for you, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about him, and then when he's ready, I will bring him on. Most of you, if you've been around golf at all, excuse me, you know this gentleman, Peter Kessler. He's always been known as the golf announcer and known as the voice because of his unique, deep voice. Peter was the voice of HBO Sports from 1990 through 95, narrating Peabody, Ace, and Emmy Award-winning documentaries, including When It Was a Game, When It Was a Game 2, the boxing trilogy In This Corner, and The Sweet Science. The premier talent of Golf Channel from 1995 through 2002, Peter hosted, wrote, and produced over 1,300 live one-hour episodes of 4 different shows, including Golf Talk Live, Academy Live, Viewers Forum, and, of course, Masters Highlights. An active fixture in the golf industry, Peter has been featured in multiple golf publications around the world, including cover stories in both Golf World and Golf Week. His expertise and historical acumen was the subject of a 10-page profile and interview in Golf Digest. Additionally, Peter has produced programs for Callaway Golf, Adams Golf, Gary Player Golf, and, of course, Bobby Jones Golf. The first voice on the PGA Tour Network, Peter also wrote and hosted a daily show from 2005 through 2015. His podcast on iTunes was rated #1 golf podcast for 2014 and 15. Continually sought for narration work, Peter has provided voiceover talent for American Express, the NBA, the USTA, and the Boys and Club Girls of America. And you can find his great podcast, Reading the Break, where all podcasts are good. Podcasts are fine, rather. And it's very interesting. It's a free podcast woven from the history of the game, hosted, of course, by masterful storyteller himself, golf historian Peter Kessler. So when Peter's ready, I will bring him on the show, and we'll hopefully have a very interesting, little different discussion tonight. I'm going to surprise him a little bit, and I hope he's game, which I'm sure he will. But also let me remind everybody while I wait for Peter that every Tuesday morning here on the blogtalkradio.com network, of course, I have another show called The Women of Golf, who most of you are probably familiar with my co-host with my good friend, LPGA Professional Legends Tour player Cindy Miller. We always have some very interesting guests. Usually we start off in the thick of things, if you will, with some of the winners from the Symetra Tour. Of course, that's the feeder tour into the LPGA. And next week, we're going to be having the winner join us from the Murphy USA El Dorado Shootout, which was last week. And unfortunately, she wasn't able to make it for the Tuesday, but she's coming on this upcoming Tuesday. And then we'll have another great guest to follow that as well. So a lot of great young ladies going to be coming on. So make sure every Tuesday morning from 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern here on the blogtalkradio.com network that you join Cindy and I as we host some of the great young ladies coming off the Symetra Tour winners, and also some other industry women and men that are helping to elevate women's golf. So it's a great podcast, and I definitely want you guys to follow that. You can either go to blogtalkradio.com and just type in Women of Golf, and you can join us live again on Tuesdays from 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern, or you can go to the on-demand section by just simply scrolling down once you get to that link page, and you can visit the on-demand section and listen to all of the previously aired broadcasts when it's convenient for you. And then, of course, here at Golf Talk Live, which airs every Thursday from 6 to 8 p.m. Central here on the same network, blogtalkradio.com. Now, some other great ways, too, that maybe you're not familiar with if you've just recently been joining the program over the last few weeks. Some other great ways, which, of course, I will play on the outro at the end of the show, but I'm going to tell you just a few of them. Castbox. If you go to castbox.com, that's another great way that services a lot of great podcasts, including both of mine, the Women of Golf and Golf Talk Live. You can actually go there and subscribe through Castbox. It's free. A lot of great podcasts there. And again, if you go there, and what that'll do is that'll allow you to get updates when new episodes come out, and it'll also allow you to go through it. Carries an on-demand section as well. Another great way for those of you that like to use Spotify. Spotify is also another great platform that will allow you to do the same thing. So you can just search Golf Talk Live or Women of Golf on Spotify and save those in your favorites, and you'll be able to access there. So while you're listening to your music and you want to switch over and listen to some great golf discussion on either Golf Talk Live or the Women of Golf, you can do that on Spotify. Also, it's available at iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, and also TalkStream Live is another platform as well. So any of those platforms, or you can just come to blogtalkradio.com, and as I said, either / Golf Talk Live or the Women of Golf, and you can just click follow, and that will allow you to follow the shows on any of those platforms. So whichever way works for you guys, I would love to have you tune into the broadcast. The audience is continually growing each and every year. I'm very, very pleased with the results, and it's two great shows. Obviously, slightly different formats for each, but I think you'll enjoy them. As I said, I'm just waiting for Peter to join me here in just a few moments. I was actually ran a little bit earlier. The last segment actually ran a little shorter than what I normally would, but as soon as Peter is ready, I will bring him on, and we will continue with my interview with, of course, Mr. Peter Kessler. You know, one of the stories that I shared, and I'll do it very quickly here while I wait for him, that I actually shared with Peter when he came on the first time, and we talked a little bit about it the second time. One of the things that I really enjoyed and what really prompted me to do what I'm doing now was watching Peter when he originally started up with the Golf Channel. And I was always very impressed by the way that he put his productions together. Of course, as I mentioned, he wrote and produced and hosted many different productions on the Golf Channel. He was really incremental in launching the Golf Channel platform. And I think the way that he did it was, in my opinion, one of the best that I've seen. And that was one of the reasons why when I first had the opportunity to have him come on the show, I was very excited to have him, because not only is he a great golf historian, and obviously he knows his players and he knows the business inside and out, but he just had a presence that he carried himself on the Golf Channel that really, in my opinion, is lacking today. Not to say that as a criticism to some of the other folks that are on the Golf Channel, but Peter just had a unique style, and I really enjoyed watching him on those earlier days. And I know that he's carried that in every aspect of his profession, and it says a lot about the individual that he is and the professional that he is. And I think that was just something that left a mark on me, that as I came into doing these broadcasts that I wanted to kind of emulate. And one of the things that really hit home for me was his ease and comfort in making others feel comfortable during those interviews. So I've always tried to do that here on the show as well. And that was something that I took away from watching him for all of those years on the Golf Channel. So I owe him a debt of thanks, if you will, for getting me to where I am at this point. But as I said, I will bring him on here in just a moment. Let me remind everybody, of course, again, we are live every Thursday evening from 6 to 8 p.m. Central here on the blogtalkradio.com network. Some other things, too, if you want to follow me on social media, you can go to Facebook and you can type in my name. It's Ted Odorico, and it's Odorico is the correct spelling of my last name. You can follow me on Facebook. I've got actually 2 Facebook pages. I had to start a second one because I maxed out on the connection. So if you just get the second one, you can just like the page and be able to follow. And I update the different shows and things like that. You can also go to Golf Talk Live blog on Facebook as well and follow Golf Talk Live and or the Women of Golf show as well. You can follow the Facebook page there, and I update both of the shows respectively there. The other thing, too, that you can also do is you can go to Twitter, and I've got 2 Twitter accounts. One is Ted and Buck CEO. CEO is in capital letters. And the other one is a new one that I've just started, which is the iGolf Sports Network. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that in the future. That's something that I'm going to be launching next year, which is a full broadcast and media production company that'll be coming out in early 2020. So, but you can go to iGolf Sports at iGolf Sports, and you can follow that Twitter account or my personal account, Ted and Buck CEO. I'm also on LinkedIn under my personal name, and also for those of you that are on Alignable, another great social media platform, which is mainly for business, but you can also connect with me there if you're a business anywhere in the U.S. or Canada. You can go there, and I'm under Ted and Buck Ted and Buck Golf Enterprises is the business, which my platform there, and you can connect with me there if you're a business. Like I said, anywhere in the United States or Canada, you can sign on to alignable.com, which is ALIGNABLE.com, and you can connect with me under the business platform there, and it's Ted and Buck Golf Enterprises LLC. So it's just some great ways that you can connect with me, and I appreciate all of the new people following and connecting with me on those various, and as I mentioned, also on LinkedIn as well. I think Peter's probably running a little bit behind here, so my apologies, and I am going to see if I can just send him a quick message just to remind him, and there we go. I will do that while we wait. And there we go. All right. As I said, my guest tonight, hopefully if everything works out, will be Peter Kessler, and we'll just wait for him to connect here, as I said, in just a moment. And in the meantime, I think what I will do is just remind everybody, of course, that golfswing.com, who has been a great supporter of the Coach's Corner segment of the broadcast, is they've got a great online video academy. If you go to golfswing.com after the show, and you can check them out, and you can join very, very, very easily. It's I think it's just a little under $20 a month, and they've got literally thousands of great video instruction from some of the best guys, if you will, that are out there. And if you go to golfswing.com, you'll be able to check those out. And I'm just waiting to see. Okay, I haven't gotten back from him yet. All right. Well, again, my apologies for the delay. Hopefully Peter will be here shortly. I'm just waiting to get a response from him. He may be running a little bit late getting home. And as I said, I will bring him out as soon as he's ready, and hopefully that will be soon. in the meantime, I will play the golfswing.com advertisement one more time.
Are you finally ready to improve your golf game? Golfswing.com is changing the way golfers learn online. With the largest collection of golf training programs and drills on the planet, Golfswing.com can help you improve every part of your game. Whether you want to gain more distance, hit it closer, or just sink more putts, Golfswing.com's staff of world-class coaches can help you gain the results you need. Watch unlimited videos on any device from anywhere in the world and start playing better, scoring lower, having more fun, and saving money. Get your fix on demand at Golfswing.com.
All right, as I said, that was Golfswing.com's advertisement. And if you visit their website, as I said, after the show, you can check out their great online video platform. It's very, very reasonable. I think it's about $18, if I'm not mistaken. It's under $20, I know that. But if you sign up for their online video, I think they even offer 1 month free with a minimum of 3 month purchase, if I'm not mistaken, and you can check them out. But anyways, visit their website after the show, and I will guarantee it that the instructors that are featured on there will be able to help you do that. So as I said, I'm going to give Peter just a little bit longer. As I said, I've just sent him a message a few minutes ago, and he may be running a little bit late, but we'll see if maybe something's come up and he's not going to be available for some reason. If that's the case, then I will reschedule when it's convenient for him to come back on. But as I said, Peter's a very interesting gentleman. I've had the pleasure of watching him for many, many years, as I mentioned, on the Golf Channel when Golf Channel first came on air. And, you know, he always had, as I said earlier, a very unique style and grace, if you will, and eloquence, if you will, in how he carried himself on the program. And I know a lot of people missed that coverage. You know, he had, I remember through many of the different platforms that he used on the program, one that really stood out to me was that he had a sort of a fireside chat, if you will, with a lot of the players. And it really sort of felt like you were sitting right there in the conversation, which was, you know, something that's missing today. Today it's just sort of a very artificial look, and that was something that was always impressed me about the formats that he created and produced for the Golf Channel. I wish they would bring something a little bit more like that. I know they've tried to do something similar, but it just doesn't seem to have the same flavor, if you will. But anyways, that was something that I used to watch and enjoy with him being on the program. But hopefully he will make it this evening, and we'll have a great discussion. Otherwise, as I said, I will make a point of bringing him on another date when it's convenient for him. Again, very quickly, let me just remind everybody, if you go to blogtalkradio.com on Tuesday morning from 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern, my good friend, LPGA professional Cindy Miller, and I will be there hosting the Women of Golf show, and we'll have a great guest coming up, the winner from the Murphy USA Eldorado shootout from last weekend. Will be joining us, and another great guest to follow. And then I'll be back next week with another very interesting guest following the Coach's Corner panel, so you want to make sure you stay tuned for that. As I said, I'll just give Peter just a couple of more minutes here. I suspect that he's been tied up with something, and there's a conflict with his schedule. And then if that ends up being the case, then I will end the broadcast and a little earlier than I planned, and we will endure to reschedule him for another time. So, so Tuesday mornings, go to blogtalkradio.com/Women of Golf at 9 a.m. And Thursday nights, 6 to 8 p.m. Central here, or 7 to 9 Eastern, again on the blogtalkradio.com network. And if you can't join live for some reason, if you're not able to join live, if you go to the on-demand sections on both of those programs, and they will have all of the previously aired shows in their entirety, so you can listen to anything that you might have missed. Other great ways, again, are castbox.com, Spotify, iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, and TalkStream Live is another platform as well. Again, just search Golf Talk Live and Women of Golf Show, and you can just click follow or subscribe. In some cases, it's all free, and you can listen to whatever platform's good for you. So I appreciate if you do that, and don't forget to follow me on social media. And again, I'm on Facebook under Ted Odorico, and you can also follow the shows as well on Facebook and Twitter. So check those out when you get a chance and connect with me there. All right, I'm going to assume that Peter has been tied up for some reason, not literally, hopefully, but something else has come up. And I'm going to end the program a little bit earlier. My apologies, and I will endure to get him back on another date. But I appreciate everybody tuning in for Coach's Corner. And again, my apologies tonight that Peter was not able to join us, but I will make sure that I get him on here on a future show as quickly as I can, and we'll have a great discussion at that point. But on that note, thank you very much for everybody for tuning in to Golf Talk Live, and I will see you next week with another great round of Coach's Corner and an insightful interview with my special guest. God bless everybody. Have a great weekend. Thanks for listening to this evening's broadcast of Golf Talk Live. Remember to tune in each week at blogtalkradio.com/Golf Talk Live. If you can't join us live, check out the on-demand section for previously aired broadcasts, or listen on any of the following social media platforms: iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, CastBox, TalkStream Live, and of course, Spotify. To get updates on future shows and upcoming guests, be sure to visit the show's Facebook page, Golf Talk Live Blog. You can also follow me on Twitter at Ted and Buck CEO. Remember to join me live each week for another great broadcast of Golf Talk Live. See you next time. This has been a production of the iGolf Sports Network.